What is consciousness? The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mysteries of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question that has captivated human minds for centuries. Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater? Explore the very fabric of our thoughts. Don't miss a moment. Expand your awareness and tap into the boundless potential that resides within you. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness.
Hello. Yes, welcome to the live stream of consciousness. Are you ready to tap into the boundless potential? Because I think we might actually be doing that tonight. I'm so excited. You guys see me excited when I have guests on for various reasons. I'm excited tonight because my guest, it's the live stream of consciousness, by the way. I'm Michael Zinn. It's Thursday night. I'm so excited. I was getting ahead of myself. It's November 2nd. Can you believe that it's almost the end of 2023? I every week I say, oh my God, it's this day, this day, this day. And I think when you say it, you're like marking it, and it's like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. But what a full year we've had. Anyway, I'm super excited tonight because my guest is somebody who I have never met before, but was introduced through different people. Actually, Ellen Kutza, who was on the show a few weeks back, it's her husband. And he is into crystals like on a level you wouldn't believe. And crystals are something that I have thoughts and feelings about, but was not something I ever really got into. And so I know there are different types of crystals. I know that the different types of crystals are affect different things within different frequency bands and things like that. So some basic stuff I know, but I am so excited tonight because I think we're all going to learn some really cool stuff. Before I introduce my guest, I just want to say hello to the regulars out there. Tim, what is up? Ninja Kitty, what is happening? It is great to see you guys. You are in for a great show. I hope you are seat belted in to whatever you're sitting in, because we're about to do it. Anyway, I don't like to babble, although sometimes it seems like I might like to. I just happen to get into it. Tonight's guest's name is Brian Christopher Kutza. He is a Crystologist, which I didn't even know was a thing. I guess geologist, I would have thought, was kind of related, but this is very, very specific, and also with a great metaphysical twist. I believe there's a lot of beliefs and knowledge that's happening here. We had some conversations earlier, and I'm just all charged up from it. Without further ado, I want you guys to welcome to the show Brian Christopher Kutza. What is happening, my friend?
How's it going? It's good to be here.
It's going great, and it's even going better now because we're together and we're about to do this. So I'm excited. I see Nancy out there. Happy to be here tonight. I am happy to have you. Always. I never say this, but subscribe and all of that stuff. If you like what's happening here on the live stream, it can grow if you tell people about it. If you comment in the comments, that helps the algorithm, that helps YouTube or whatever platform you're seeing us on know that people are out there and interested. So please do that. If you do subscribe, I have a bell here that I ring, so I don't just tell you to ring the bell and click. I actually physically create some vibration in the air for you if you tell me in the chat. So pretty cool. I see the quiet healer out there as well. Welcome, Janice. Nice to see you. So, Brian, I have some questions I got to ask you before we get rolling.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. I think maybe you took a look at the show and you know what's about to happen.
I saw the one with Ellen, in all fairness, and that, the cohesiveness of that was beautiful and elegant. And I saw the one with Wendy. That was freaking fantastic. I mean,
thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, that's as far as I perused for right now.
You know what? That's all I need to know. And again, that warms my heart to know that whatever intention I do put into this is received, because that's what it's all about, and I really do appreciate that. And I just, again, I'm so excited to get into some real good conversation with you. But this is good conversation. This is what the show is all about, what it's based on. I like what you said earlier, how the show is actually kind of compiling this vault of knowledge about this specific question, and that question is, what is consciousness? What exactly are we talking about?
Yeah. Well, if you just posed the question to me, which I believe you did, it's kind of like, where's your position of receiving that, and where are you projecting it from? Like, where are we talking about, from mind consciousness and of form and of humanity, of humanity itself, or are we talking about something that's a little bit more silent, a little bit more elusive and forever giving, and really doesn't come? There's no way to unpack it. You're inseparable from it. So it's a cohesiveness called resonance, and basically it is the resonant nature of the coalescence of the harmonics called the octaves of spheres, and the spheres intertwine and roll with each other, and it's kind of like about like that is the way I'd say it. And what it is we each have our own universe. You're a very unique individual person, and that's the beauty of what each of us are, and that's the gift of what we resonate outwardly, is what we're expressing inward. It's resonated outwardly, and that's what makes this place so special. The uniqueness of each person is holding the keys for the other person to receive. So in our stories and beliefs and whatever, that's all transpining and happening out here, but this energy that's behind it, that we're all within, is coalescing through us, as us, and all around us. So it's this grand, it's kind of like being in an ever-giving feedback loop, and you could see it moving through you, and it's coming to you at the same time, and you're not quite sure. Like those late nights on a road where you're doing travel and it's like 16 hours into the drive, and you stare at the drive for a second, it looks like the road looks like it's not coming to me anymore. It looks like, or the road's sliding and I'm sitting dead still. Right. It's your perception for a moment. This reality has that ability to afford you an infinite perception within the arrangement of those spheres. And each one of us is crystallized in a way, a series of those spheres that come with a sacred blueprint, your crystalline body. And the sacred geometry from that is basically the etheric threads that project in what space and form becomes for us to experience. We coalesce and share. So we called it co-creating for one moment, and we figured that we were trying to figure that out for all of humanity, and realized that we were always doing that, and there's nothing separate and distinct about that. Creation and consciousness simply just is part of the all of cohesion. It sounds very abstract because it's like this: where you stand is zero, and where you look to be is whatever polarity you gave it in the drive and the number. So divinity equals one, inseparable. And as soon as you divide or give direction or measure, that is division within the whole. And you're talking about a completely different subject, that like the fractal universe. Where is our mind actually stored? What are we tapping into? We call consciousness. And for me, in the arrival of dying to yourself a few times, and physically as well, and being reanimated, is that you went and did things. I'm just going to say, like, okay, in the process of going out of the body, what is the occurrence, right? And so you meet some new characters, you meet some spaces that you thought, I'm only imagining this, and later you're like, no, this is beyond imagination, it's existence. And the things that were told to you begin to unfold, and things are still told through you as you speaking to yourself as the highest order that you could possibly be. Is how do we embody that and exemplify and bring that here cohesively to the earth? That coalescence, the truth of that is consciousness itself. Now, we're individually all expressing it. That's the beauty of the domain that we exist in within the planes of earth. It's a diagram that I've been dying inside to represent in the video game format, but not as a shoot 'em up kill. It's more like, where are you perceiving your existence to be is a formality of different planes of cohesion within the dimension. And so, like, where's your head? Where's your heart? Where's your feet? Where are you grounded? Where's your stories? Where's your projector? And so in that, the one place to be was in not the place I'm in right now, speaking to you, but in silence. And in silence, you're afforded the gift of seeing the all simultaneously, inseparable, and infinite. And in those spaces, other realms start showing up, like other groups of characters, Seraphim Realms, infinite eyes, the infinite toroidal space that's like twisting a donut and extending it. And while you were extending it and laughing about how cool this is, you let the tail accidentally suck up inside of it again. And it like got sucked up and it's running.
A fractal toroidal almost.
We're sitting in a position inside of that, like, I don't know, 18 years ago, I tried to post, we're on the event horizon of what appears to be a black hole, but I wouldn't call it that because I've studied the antithesis for too long. What does it mean to be light? Always things that we don't understand or is unknown as darkness. We're peering into the dark. And although it's a vacuum state and absorbed all of light, we knew that that was not true, that all light potential existed there as well, just out of our perception.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. You just said so freaking much. but like
the drawings are good. Actually, the drawings is most.
Oh my God.
Like there and in books. It helps because over decades, I've gone back to my books just recently that were nonlinear progressions of different octave ranges of I'd call existence, of what you could be in a body. Exemplary as you may see, hey, look, there's a guy and there's that thing, right? This body and this identity. There's the body of the mind. There's the one of the father. There's the one of the generator, the destroyer, the operator. There's all these different things, your corporations. There's all these parts to yourself. And then there's all these guidance systems that's innately within. And we become in denial to what that actually is and become diminishment of what that is. We really limit our potential of what existence is, that Earth really is giving us the opportunity to be within. And so for me, consciousness was trust. Trust yourself. You'll trust everything. You get past that big issue. Sounds simple, but it's not that easy.
It does sound simple, and there are moments that I'm like, I am in that simplicity, and life becomes that simple, and I'm like, oh, it was that simple. All I needed to do was this, and look where I'm at. And then life changes constantly. That's what it is. It's a flow, right? So it's like being able to readjust, in that flow. I think is what helps get through this existence. But again, there's so much in what you said about that I want to unpack, as far as way back in the beginning when you were talking about how each one of us is our own universe and that kind of stuff. I mean, there were so many different concepts that you hit on that like get me so excited, because it's like it's the realization of who you are and how you're connected to that oneness that you were talking about, how you are everything. But there's a second part of my question, and I certainly don't need to imagine that you feel that there is more to existence than kind of we are shown in the mainstream, and as a person growing up in the education system, and even in our family, the things that our family teaches us, there's more to it. Do you have a specific moment or memory that you realized that there was more to it than what most people think?
I think that's the unpack that one real easily is that's somewhere in the early ages, like around age 6. And then again, in the ages like the teens, the 12 division, there events happen in my life that allowed me to see other levels of spirit and existence and things that others would say, hey, that wasn't there. But I was fortunate. She makes good stories out of these things. I was fortunate to have a family that went and remotely lived on an island. At that time, it was called Crescent Island, which is off of Florida. And at that time, it's just like, hey, there's one little bridge to get on. Everyone's got a boat, right? It's your car, it's your boat.
Right.
Growing up in that environment, I grew up in nature. I wasn't in a megalopolis. I wasn't indoctrinated in this stuff. Our kindergarten was like, dissect a fish and learn how to, sail a boat and shit.
Right, right. Sounds amazing.
Yeah. And so in that essence of growing up in that domain, I spent a lot of time in nature with birds and fish and all kinds of animals, and really learned languaging. That was what was real. Being left alone for not left alone like an abandonment situation, which
Mm-hmm,
I'm programming of, left alone to find my own way, my own
yeah,
path.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of beautiful, right? You know,
That's
sometimes
awesome.
with a gun, you're shooting stuff when you're a little kid, and you realize that's not a good thing later. But it allowed me to figure out the language of what nature was trying to show me. The whispering of the winds, the flickering of those leaves, those shadows on the ground, the hermit crabs would come by the thousands. The sound of that, everything just kept repeating after a while. I started feeling and sensing all that, and I sensed more of a spirit realm and became really interconnected with things showing up to talk or have a conversation. And you're like, hey, there's a, it's probably, yeah, hey, there's a lady sitting over in that chair right there, and she's asking me to sit with her. And everyone's like, yeah, there's nothing in the chair, right? But then in a moment, the chair has that ever slight perceptual movement for me, because I'm seeing the perceiver, I can see that other existence.
Right.
Then I'm wondering if anyone else sees the form that we're talking about. The chair is in motion. And sometimes there would be, yes, there was the case of that, which corroborates that you're not just like in your own fantasy world. There's something else happening. And so as that kind of kept going, I had to kind of like learn to live with that, I'd call it. You got to kind of keep it quiet. You can't really go babbling around that. You get your ass kicked for it. People think you're strange, and that's not the real world. But it was a portion of this world, and a very important portion of the world too, the spirit world. And the spirit world is diminished in its qualities because of how it's been written about. And just you say witchcraft, and somebody gets something, they immediately it's like spirals and all kinds of demonic, like, and you're like, hey,
right.
Break down, you know. Okay, so how about a person who acknowledges natural and cosmic orders?
Right.
You know, people have told me I'm a wizard because of the amount of material, the kind of consciousness or pockets of it that I've been able to coalesce and build universes of that do resonate. It does go together. It's almost imperceivable that was a possibility on our planet because we're not walking around with much imagination anymore. Our imagination's been stolen by the white line of Google. When you type in your code, you're like, hey, what was I, what? And it's like, hey, is this what you were looking for? And ding, puts you in a whole potential that you're like, hey, that's a better choice than what I was conceiving. And you have a relationship or a relay, and you begin to lose self. And so artificial intelligence says everything that it is, just like consciousness is the conning of science. You can't put your mind around it. You're conning the mental body of science, which is nothing but fact, matter of fact, which is crystallization and distillation of observation to a number of times that everybody agrees it happens. But in the world of existence, everything else is happening simultaneously too. So you're like, hey, can you stop crystallizing bullshit and then telling me this is the universe? Because it's actually inhibitive of what our potentials are out here.
Yeah.
Christology leads me to a place of reminding you that you're a water body. And inside your body of natural fluid dynamics, of pumping systems that are moving mineralogy that create electrolytic currents and blah, blah, blah. You are the same as a star, a nebulae, a river, a mountain itself. We are inseparable from nature. We actually run the same mechanisms. Yeah. And those signatures is what needs to bring us into consciousness without being conned by the science of it. Is that what was metaphysical is also perceivable now and measurable. And so what was woo-woo, like, believe me, I came through this thing and went into a place where I'm gem quality mineralogy and leads to cosmology. And if you want to really keep expanding, this goes to infinity. But the attunement of the mineralogy and the crystals is just exquisite. When you jump off that gap and you start grabbing that device and you're like, wow, this is so beautiful. You not only left a price point that's inconceivable to most people of existence, you're now holding something that most people go, that's not even real. And you're like, wait, yeah, this is totally real, but they're in denial of it. And the next thing is most people don't have access to that. And so the conversation really has to get back down to a waypoint where we're talking about something that puts a new foundation of earth science inside of the program again that diminished its potential, just like when I say the word witch. And I'm not into that word. That word spins all kinds of variations.
Right.
Yeah. And, you know, this language out here has been excising each one's individuality to express itself wholly. So all we're doing is being fragmented, and spitting information out.
Mm-hmm.
The ideal is that we were given inseparable reign to kingdoms. We were put inside of an arrangement of spheres that are in perfection, and we are perfection inseparable.
Mm-hmm.
We're eternal beings in an infinitely giving system. And yet we walk around saying we don't have something or we can't.
Well, I think, and you know, it's like, again, my mind is going a million miles an hour because there's so many things to talk about as far as even what you're saying and how we are as a society right now, because I think you hit it on the nose, is that we have been separated from nature, you know, and very guilty. That's why you talk about how you grew up, and it's so romantic to me in such a beautiful way because of that connection. You know, I have experienced moments of connection with nature, and so I know the awesomeness of that power. You know what I mean? So and I just heard a conversation recently on one of these podcasts about how human beings, this is totally related to another thing, but how human beings are the least equipped to survive on this planet, right? There's no other animals that get sunburn and things like that we're susceptible to as human beings. And what we've done is created like these four walls around me, you know. I'm so
Ecosystem.
What's that?
Like a fragile ecosystem.
Yeah. And you know, I think we take for granted the fact that we've done this and this is the way we exist. And I'm so happy that there is this big resurgence of this interest in this knowledge of, wait a second, this is not the way we should be living. I romanticize so much of, like, I feel like the industrial age was where we started kind of going this way, because now we don't have to grow our own food and be connected to it. We could just go to the store and pick it up, while at the same time we're picking up our clothes and picking up all of these other things. And it's like, it just separates you from accountability of existence. You know what I mean? In a big way. Yeah.
How do you tend to the garden that was freely given to you? Like when you and I showed up, okay, you and I are in a twisted reality because you and I are in systems that we have access to technology and knowledge that, you know, a good portion of the planet doesn't even have access to on a regular basis. So we could potentially be skewed in our perception.
Right.
But I look at this thing that what I do is I look around, what are the tools that are available to me and how can I better myself? And for that matter, one of my favorite things is, how can you help me help you help a lot of people? And that's because this thing is a relay that goes back and forth. It's a conversation. It's a dynamic. It builds. It has capacitance. It needs to flow. It needs to figure out its way to like harmonize. And this is reality. Yeah. And our mind goes, no, I thought about it. So now it needs to be here, right? And everyone's all this, you know, the universe is created by your mind. So you need to get mindfulness going. And that is a truth in its own level of spheres of consciousness. That is a bubble within itself of a myriad of bubbles you can sit perpetually within and actually wield force and matter through will of the mind into creation. But the heart is the real transponder of the ingredient of feeling and sensing, compassion, empathy, which is, I said, is your real navigator. And yet we don't have a really strong language for what that space is.
Right.
Very few put together the 8 words that allow you to talk about emotional body, and somebody's combining them back together in groupings, which is great because our organs work like that. All of our senses work in a symphony. You know, there's parts of us that work coalescently. Your gut, your brain, and your heart. It's 3 dynamic systems of mind that each have a different level of reach inside of that coalition of spheres. Each one has its own relationship to what's occurring. The mind, the brain is a receiver. It's a damn like tool that's inside you. That's bioelectrically, it's a mechanical thing. Kind of really cool. Yeah. And like, you know, I think somebody came over one day and they was like, she's really older and she goes, "You're just a creature." And I was like, yeah, don't say that. That's kind of like, no, I'm a temple. And I was like, wait, I could see that. I'm kind of like this shell and these things are inside of me, and man, they're all working together. It's a beautiful symphony. Oh my God, we should look at that more carefully. You know, really abide by this temple and not be so destructive and all these other things, right? Change your food type, languaging, change a lot of things. Yeah, but in that process, you're really learning how to sit in the stillness of a sphere of consciousness that you have projected and also wielded outwardly simultaneously. And you have to learn your relationship in that.
Right.
And that's like getting access to governing God codes or whatever. At some point, you're like, okay, meditation, these other events that are necessary to train the body, to get the breath, to be in the rhythm, to show up in that space, to not have an emotion control, to be clear,
Right.
stay very tricky. So when we don't know the language of the transpondence of what it is we're feeling and sensing, which is energy moving and has body and form, we're kind of ditched on being really clear about what we're trying to present to each other.
Right.
And I go, can we start working on that one a little more carefully? And where's all the words? You know.
So you're bringing me. You actually brought me to a good moment where I want to ask you if you can be reined in, because you are like wildly like yeah. What she's got in there?
Okay, so like this right here, rein me in. That's a great one. This thing right here is Crystology. So okay, so that's another thing. I'm a Crystologist, as I say it.
That's what I wanted to. I wanted to kind of take a couple.
Watch this one.
Yeah.
That's a word that I'd like to put back into the program of the language of humanity to say, you know what? It just makes freaking sense. Can you just put it slipping in there? But instead, a person who studies the mineral structure of a crystal is called a Crystologist. Is a Crystologist, which is even difficult for somebody to say, let alone type or remember or find you in a website or get anything off of, right? I'm like, I'm into the crystal, not the lattice structure, guys. The energy and the transpondence, the color therapy, the arrangement of all this. Yes, all that. Yeah. And how it's absolutely. But I'm not zooming on the inside here and running around in the lattice work. So I use Crystology to allow it to change water, which I'm a water body, and that allows that water to come in there and basically give me access to aspects of myself. Awesome. Meaning, tempering your chakra systems, allowing you to have a little bit more centeredness when you're not on a radio thing like this or the program.
Well, you reminded me actually, and Ellen reminded me too in the comments. I just want to pop up your URL over here because again, I want to actually just check in on my audience, because I don't think I have ever had a guest where I was just so mesmerized and quiet, and I didn't want to say anything because I was just listening and I was just absorbing it all. I do have a bunch of questions for you, and again, I do want to acknowledge my audience. I have Grace Grella out there, Hat Pauser saying what up. When you were talking about nature, Grace Grella is always relating everything to music, and she's always very good with the play on words. She says that you're coming through crystal clear. And Tim is saying he's definitely have been experiencing the reconnection with nature, especially when he's in the jungles of Rio de Janeiro. He's in Brazil, so that's awesome, giving my show the international flavor that it has all the time. But so again, I when I said let's rein you in a little bit, I just kind of want to talk about, I mean, I know just from doing a little research that you had a formal education in engineering and architecture, right, originally. And I can actually kind of see, again, with sacred geometry and circles, even just a circle, right, how drafting and doing that stuff might lead you to some of the things that you're talking about now. So you kind of told us what a Crystologist was. I have a lot of questions. Okay, so and it's like I don't want to skip over anything. There's so many things. I still want to go back to the idea that what you said, like we're each our own universe, because that concept to me is like so, it's so abstract yet so simple to understand, and explains the idea of what the heck a multiverse is. And it makes it easy to understand, and it's like, again, you talk about this moment right here. You're here, I'm here, so we're having this experience, but we're not having the same experience. You're having it from your perspective, and I'm having it from my perspective. And when we walk away, that'll be a part of our universe. It'll be a part of your universe in your way, and a part of my universe in my way. And those universes simultaneously exist and cross paths, and like that's what we're doing right here in this moment, which is amazing. Right? It's like it makes you amazed at existence, and like the big thing I see people pushing all the time is like, what are the chances of you even being here? They're like 1 in a gazillion, so like that's why you should be grateful, right?
You definitely stop and slow down for a moment, and you
Yeah.
really begin to assemble yourself as being here, present to what that means, and then honoring the ability to ground into something that's a circuit, like a life-giving system, and become part of that. There's a grand opportunity for you to live a life that was not designed. See, the other lives of all this modern world that I know I came from and to and through, and actually help others and help myself still through as well, is that mindfulness designed and crafted a way for us to exist that was unnatural. It didn't have the same rhythms. It has a rhythm that says now. Like we let it up to now. Like first it's like with the industrial age, like you mentioned. Then we go, hey, let's start mimicking and make things, come out. All the chairs need to look the same. The tables, all this is like progress. And you're like, no, it looks like what somebody else has. I like making my own chair. And so we diminished our potential until we took that metronome, that pace, and we amped it up, because the energy where we're at in the cosmic orders right now, which is about Christology, cosmology, the geometry of what's behind me. It's all the same subject, and so is us right here. Behind us is us. We are inseparable as a diagram that's going through an evolutionary condition right at this moment while you and I are speaking and doing this. We're receiving more information we ever have before in a lifetime. Humanity is sitting on a planet that is charged right now at a capacity that she's never charged to this much internal network energy inside of her ever in all of the existence of what humanity can
Wow.
have.
Yeah.
5 eons, let's just say 5 rounds. We're on the 6th round of this thing, and on this cuspid thing of coming through here, some of us remember what the rounds were. We've been here the entire time trying to guide us through to the harmonics to get to the resonance. Enough of us, the capacitance work together. The resonance holds for all the others to follow. As by law of cosmic and natural orders, that's the hierarchy of the spheres. It just plays itself out like that.
Wow.
You can't mess with it. You just got to be in it and part of it.
Right.
So,
Right.
like us talking about conscious being on this thing is engaging modernity where it sits right now, that could create separation and opens a door into a subject that's so complex that you have to meander through it. There's no freaking straight answer on that.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So Jilly's out there. What's up, Jilly? Good to see you. And she's reining us in a little bit back to, like, so we're not going so fast all over the place. But can you talk about what crystals are in the water and what the purpose of those would be?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I work with Crystology that builds an electrolytic current from the grounding of you being present to what you're casting into creation, through the temporal heart space, basically the aspects of your heart, higher heart, your inner child, these kind of communication tools, to the higher sense of your being, and then put the message out there that you were transponding to what we call like the universe, the magistrate. In the process, the main thing is you just don't throw rocks like your dice or whatever, toss it in some water and call it a day. It's about relating to each crystal and attunement in the biological, your body, and we're actually really feeling and sensing that there's a relationship happening there. It's energetic, and it's super palatable. Our body needs to be attuned to each one, what these give. As you put them together in arrangements of families, they coalesce, the energy builds, and they communicate with each other, just like your phone and everything else does. This is an electrolytic computer, basically built out of items that naturally resonate at their unique fields. They hold a field. Some are angular and go straight. Some are emanate and expand. These are part of what our reality is constructed of, and we built all of our frail technology on these subjects. This is going back to the original circuit board. So I'm into, basically I'll put in here, elements of rose quartz. I don't even use smoky quartz in there. It's not the ground circuit. I'm so grounded in holding a position between the cosmos and terrestrial that in my elixir here is sugilite, specular garnets, heliodor, emeralds, aquamarine, anything that will resonate and put my heart space back into an attunement of the highest order and position that I could afford in this body without burning circuits. And I temper that through the more softer sides of myself. We used to call those the effeminate sides, but I like to just call it softer energy sides. And that those sides right there really prevail and dominate over the circuit of the energy of this elixir. And it's really important, because if we don't do that, we literally are just adding energy and we over potentialize our existence. It doesn't help us, doesn't help anyone else, and doesn't go anywhere. So inside of here, because I am who I am, I have moldavite, stick of moldavite, there's some phenokite in here. There's nothing that will dissolve, but I do use the distillate that dissolves often that I personally love, like a big whopper like this. Apophyllite, we all love this. If you know the material at all, it really gives you attuned communication to the higher orders of existence.
What is that called? Apophyllite?
And you could put it in your water, and it'll distillate. It'll break down over time. It's not harmful to you, but
Wow.
there's so many different ways to build the formula. The formula really has to build inside the capacitance of the body, get it in harmonics, get it attuned, and then you cast from that place an intention. To do that casting, you have to be attuned, to be positioned, grounded, and knowing what you're casting, and being ready to be attuned to receiving. And so,
where did you learn all that? Because
that in the essence of this is many years since I was a kid. I've been picking up rocks and digging rocks and going places, and so some of us are just rock hounds out here, always have been. And in the practicality of how did I get certified is through Melody Love is in the Earth schooling of the past, when she's passed now. But there's many people that were teaching the classes and stuff, and what I was really accelerant in all that program, and went through it fairly quickly in under 2 years. And that has to do with laying out of stone, shamanic traveling, astral projection. I mean, these are like big concepts. You're like, yeah, I know all this, but how do you do it? And for us, we would do it with each other, in front of each other, through each other, as each other, until it was proven that each one of us was doing each one of these things exactly as it was being said and done.
Wow.
If you talk about belief systems, I dropped all that formality. It's resonance. I was shown by nature and natural and cosmic laws what's real. I don't have to believe anything. I'm going with what I'm shown is reality.
Right. You know, that's interesting that you say that, because I think there was, and I feel like I don't even have, well, I do, I just haven't accessed it, but the amount of, information that you're talking about, I haven't accessed that information. But there was a moment in time where I was like, I realized that I don't believe things, I know things.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like you just know. You're like, okay, that's not a belief. It's an innate knowing. I just want to again slow down a bit. Jilly was asking a question about the crystals and the water, and saying and the crystals program the water, which then integrates with our water body. She's asking that.
Absolutely. That's the point of doing the elixirs. Being certified for a while, I was also doing energetic studies in a special studio. We built a lot of Crystology with lasers for real, mechanical operations, because I'm coming through aerospace and other people are coming from multiple domains. And we put a lot of technology together, and it really does change who we are. But the one thing that was present during this whole time is that those crystals. They innately just did what they did. And on top of it, you could still have a playful relationship, and they can seemingly play and relate with that too and do so much more. So they're always showing you like more of what they could do besides what you were already showing, which is interesting, a never ending giving system. But given that technology in hand, how do you wield it appropriately? And what does it actually mean to be here? And again, I remind you, all your technology is built out of this, including your own temple, your body.
Yeah.
So the ideal here was one day, what do people normally do? I love to make things, but then I get in a funk and I don't figure it out. My brain is like, can't come up with ideals anymore. There was like so many things in the Los Angeles space I was running into with people everywhere that I came up with formulas that dealt with basically the will to create, ability to hold the solar plex, to hold the will for the energy to build to a certain level of capacitance, which we could call voltage, to a level that the heart can receive it and then place it out in context for the mind to project the creation.
Oh, I love that. I think we got to talk about that. You got to teach me how to do that. That sounds.
So these arrangements is oftentimes people are being so mindful that they're just projecting with mind all the time, and that tricks them into what existence is, which they want everything instantaneous. And us as older gentlemen, like I'm 55. I did the 12 and 14 hours, 16-hour days, you know what I'm saying? So you worked at some point. Now the younger generation's like, I get a break at 2.5 hours or 3 hours by law. So we've arrived in a different world of a different metronome and a different pace. But that pace with Crystology is we've cosmically moved up through a meridic line of the horizontal band of the galactic plane, and we're poking up and coming up through this thing. We change a polarization, the way energy comes to us. And also we don't have a gaseous cloud like between me and you right now. That's out of the way, and it's kind of like this. So the central sun, the great central sun, are like, hey, I see you too. That we don't normally get is like bombarding us. And we're all like, where does time go? Why is it going so fast? Where did the last year just go? Like somebody came over last night. They were like, hey, how did we get to November?
What's going on? So many people are asking, so many people I know, spiritual people, are like, what the hell's going on? What the hell is going on? I just want to, what did I want to do? I wanted to just take a segue into kind of what you were talking about, which is really science, applying science to this all, right? Okay, so I have some questions because I don't know, but I think that I've heard that what you're talking about, that energy fields can be scientifically measured from crystals, right? And different types of activity. And you were talking earlier about crystals communicating with each other and things like that. So for me, this strikes something that makes me really excited, and I want to hear what you have to say about this, because I feel like when we talk about alien life, okay, when we talk about life forms outside of Earth and what we know, and the way people talk about it and the expectations of how to even detect that are based on human biology. And to me, I'm like, wait a second, I feel like crystals are actually a life form, and why couldn't that not be some sort of alien existence, like mushrooms, kind of the way they communicate, you know what I mean? Like some connection to that original source and the vibratory field, right? Like crystals are connected to that. So why can't they be a life form that we just don't really understand? Or you probably do. I don't understand, but there's a part of me, like I said, that I don't just kind of believe that. I feel like I know it. I feel like there is something about crystals. I said earlier, like I never really got into crystals and knowing what crystal is what, but there is something about crystals that I know that, and I do feel like they're connected to
all your food. Everything that you're eating, consuming, and doing is Crystology in a way. So it's mineralogy and solutions and pastes and chemistry that looks like it's a form that is what it's supposed to be, but chump on a big stalk of a celery, and you got all your salts, which are minerals, and a solution, you got cellular matter. You can't dismiss what's really the arrangement. The arrangement is the arrangement's repeating. That's one thing.
Right.
Elements,
I think you just hit the key. You hit the key for me in that connection. You just made a connection for me in the crystal structure and a cell structure. Right?
Yeah.
It's like it's so obviously related. It's like
the plant kingdom and the mineral kingdoms, which is sometimes a language people don't want to hear. But if you look at things being defined by how men and women have got together to use their mind and talk about what subjects are and their branches in them, it's just that. So it's just a cataloging of a species. And if we could say that they've done that, they haven't found the formality that the mineralogy of the crystal kingdom was stuck inside of the freaking cosmology of the plant, meaning that the biology of the plant. Basically, I like to think of it all as cosmology. Like at some level, you're in a cell and you get into mitochondria, and you get inside that, and you're in atomic structures, and you're watching gateways and things move out of the way, and geometry's all there, and you're like, what the, and you're like, yeah. So the subject here is that Crystology gives in a way that's innately non-distorted, and we are inseparable from that. So the languaging between us and it is one and the same. We're just learning a new interface between the two. The way I came to this is by not reading the books. I can tell you that.
Interesting.
I have books. People give me books for decades. I'm not a person who reads books. I can look at a book and feel something, see something come out of it, a geometry, something like that pours out. I know if it's for me or not. And I just walk around this place in my own path. So Crystology has been authentic to me about what it's been telling me. And when I look at it, it's not doing all the things of potential that the mindset of the person who wrote the book, who's filling in space with potential. You got to go, where's the distillate in all that potential? What's the top thing it's doing. Every crystal that's mineralogy seems to be performing one primary function that's completely unique from the other mineralogy, just like you and I.
Right.
So this is the beauty of the uniqueness.
Oh,
And again, when you get into quartz, you're like, yeah, what's the size of the point? What's the inclusion? Is the lattice work this, that, or the other? It's all operating differently. It goes to infinity. So every single subject you look at will divide and then go to infinity in its divisions. That's our fractal paradigm.
Right.
But where's the commonality that's in all this? The elements bind everything together. Water has been alluded to be consciousness itself, or the carrier of consciousness, in the formality of crystalline structure. Liquidity of structure of water in the badass aquamarine that I love has got ventricle tubes inside of it that take water in solution to build itself, come up like a tree, and go in tubes that are so small that it's smaller than the atomic structure of water. And so water has to go into that fourth phase to go through tubes and gets smaller than its own natural structure that we know it to be. Nobody can explain that.
Wow.
Because crystals are implosionary devices carrying cosmic orders into terrestrial scenes. And that's like saying, hey, I got a sun and I'm holding it in my hand. Oh, I hope this thing doesn't blow up the whole neighborhood right now.
I love it. Dude, I wish you were closer because I feel like we should be hanging out. I would love to be sitting and hanging out with you and just like discussing all of this stuff. Let me catch up a little bit. What's that?
The feeling of it's so important to get that tangibility going, because your belief system will change the day that I stand next to you and tell you that I'm doing something. You're going to swear I'm doing it by touching you. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm standing there.
Yeah, I want to address some of the comments, because that was mentioned in the comments. So way back to when you were talking about crystallography, is that Hat Pauser is helping us out. Looked up on Wikipedia. Crystallography, experimental science of determining the arrangement of atoms in crystalline solids. Crystallography is fundamental subject in the fields of materials and science and solid state physics. So
look at how empirical that language goes. You can't find a Christologist because they didn't allow it to be this medium of the place between, where you're so freaking technical, you lost everybody. Listen to me. You're unpacking stuff. I just got to get into every sentence. And Ellen's like, keep it simple. I'm like, I
am. This is simple. No, and I love that. Listen, I love it.
But in this process, there's not a language, as you can see when you go to search for it. They're not letting domains be fulfilled. Right. It has to fit into a paradigm that's already empirical and structured. And you're like, there's a space between. First, we were talking metaphysics don't exist. If you try to bring metaphysics over to a gem show, they're going to kick your ass out of the show in a second. If you bring gems over to the metaphysics thing, they're like, that's from another universe altogether of existence. And I operate between the two in a space that's like a vacuum, where you can say everything is coalescing here, people.
I love it. I love that. And I'm so grateful that here you are on the live stream of consciousness. Have you done this before? Have you ever spoken about this stuff like on a podcast before? Or I feel like you should be teaching, like this is like, you should be a university, like you should have your own school.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been asked to do that, and that's actually a formality. If you look at my website, I do LifeStream Technology on a regular basis, and I do a lot of performance things for larger, like structured groups with the Crystology. If you go past any of that stuff, which is just me coming in as a form, and I'm showing you, like, here's some Crystology. Most of those grids, as people call them grids, are basically bioelectric structures. Everything's a living entity that's in there. Just like you mentioned earlier, that for me is a very living, conscious being and has a very unique way to connect with us humans. And that these things have a beautiful way to arrange themselves that help us with communication, being seen, heard, and acknowledged, which is a paradigm for our mind. Is always an illusion. So if you build something for a stage like that big orange thing, I was like, there's going to be 10 elders from all these different tribes that you've never seen each other ever before. They're all old. And they're going to talk to the world about how we're going to harmonize. And I just laughed. I laughed out loud to the elder who told me it's going to happen. I said, good luck on that conversation with how it's how. And I was like, but the thing I could do to be in service is not build something that's cool and decorative. It has to be about tempering the communication of them communicating, being heard. And then when people ask questions, being received. And that transcended flow back and forth was what happened on that stage. And nobody expected that. And sometimes I don't either. I just know I'm in service to a larger group of subjects.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's freaking
awesome. If you scroll through any stuff. You'll
I
see
was
it.
going to say, what? I don't want to start a video. What's going to happen if
Don't.
I click on that? Is that going to?
No, you won't. You don't have to.
Okay.
Yeah, it will start there.
Yeah. There is a video there.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You
But
should just
that-
plug in reality. My rabbit hole is that I am inseparable in a lot of different domains. So it seems complex, but it's a foundry level that we operate as cosmic beings in a terrestrial body. And so people say, yeah, I'm a spirit and I have a soul and I'm in this, this body.
Right.
And I'm like, the cool part is the body comes with a lot of really interesting potentials in its own level of existence. And the spirit has its level of existence and the mind has its as well. And so you could really peruse like, hey, you're using science right there, white hole torsional field. That thing generated basically you put your hand about 3 to 4 feet above that and you felt like somebody had a fan on under your hand that was swirling air through it. And everyone got that because that's built out of the same like a meteorite was. Those were mimicking planetary operations, and then they were implosionary devices basically to create a vacuumous state that arranged itself and then was being able to be projected upward. And we built a series of like 9 of these devices, and 3 of them worked like crazy good. And it's only an infinite shape, an infinite looping that I built with those things.
Wow.
It's off. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Jilly is that's a good segue to a comment I saw earlier. Jilly is saying Tesla said crystals are beings, because I feel like this is almost kind of like very Tesla-like, right? Like what you're working with, it's not machinery, but it's certainly like almost like ancient technology, right? Like, I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Some like the Mayan elder, he's running around saying that we're the future, we're the ancient future. Like basically returning to our roots of understanding us as people about what's available. For me, is returning to the garden for exactly the way it was presented to us, not how it was designed and sold and packaged to us, but the one we're actually standing within. And then what I'm doing, if you will, is playing with what the perception is, what meteors, cosmic bodies are, and I'm able to rearrange them on my floor until I get an energetic relationship that's beyond astrology. Now I've got cosmology in my living room.
Right. So
your Lego set is completely badass. I can tell you that.
So crystals are almost like a physical manifestation of frequency, I guess you can say. And I noticed here you have the sound bowl, the crystal bowls.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about how sound ties into this? How sound frequency ties into?
Absolutely. So the singularity of resonance, which is the whole in the scalar template, there's a blueprint that emanates what is separation, what is the individuality of one thing, what is that oneness, right? When one saw another, it became 3, and it keeps going. That division, that paradigm, that photon eventually gets the ideal of motion, and a wavelength shows up. That is sound. And the sound basically is a translation between the singularity, the source of all emanation, and you as the receiver, perceiver. So your role of receiving a wavelength is way more important than we understand. And that I feel like, and I even said the word believe, take that out of my vocabulary. Okay, see that? I just dropped it. And what I feel is that the essence behind what's being shown to us by our own usage of words and who we are to be is it's coming into creation. We're in a changing period of time because of the energy that's here. The dragon lines are all gone. The cosmic order collapsed, and that whole thing's glowing gold. And I've been shown this whole star of life. We got the seed, the tree, and all these cosmic elements. And I'm like, I deduced in like 8 pages the star of life that I was drawing for like a long time.
Nice.
It has to do with taking the energy that is of the now and using it to transpond what we would say we have access to.
All right, I got an odd question for you that just popped in my head. What do you think? What do you imagine that the cosmic reveal looks like? Wow, look at that.
Yeah. It's like seeing a squirrel, right, to a dog. This is reality. Cosmic reveal. Wow, you just want to know. Okay, you're in the why statement zone. For me, I operate.
Well, I'm kind of curious as to what you think. What what you feel it looks like what you imagine. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. What you imagine
I
the
think it's
cosmic
sort
reveal
of
looks like.
the unification of people as people themselves. And the division of separation was just of mind and was greatly an illusion to all of us. That the division of land and sea of the continents between each other. I mean, I told my kids, if I asked all of you guys in this room right now, and you're 20-something years old, draw me the continents. I need you to do this. And they're like, duh. You know, this is not going to be happening right now. You have
Right.
no relationship to Earth. And I'm like, we're all Earthlings. How are we going to get here? How are we going to do this together? Get to be on Earth. Because as soon as you decide that smack dab you're on Earth, you quit the paradigm of the small chitty chat of I'm separate from you. As soon as you get to that place, and you go way through all these stages of development of finding you're inseparable from the all. And
Right.
for like myself, I recently died in a very unique way, and it allowed me access through the Seraphim, asking for access to another aspect of myself, which was the one that I had never seen because I got rid of everything. And it let me go outside the myriad of spheres into completely the void of just sitting there with no things. And when you're in that paradigm, you realize how mechanically operative and beautiful this place actually is. And you realize that everything really is coalescing just like we were told. And that we really are inseparable, and we're in one cosmic universe within a myriad of infinite other ones, but we're sharing something together. And I think when we get to the point where we agree we're sharing space, is another connectivity in the authenticity instead of artificial intelligence. My other friend, Tloc, says it's AI. Like for us, we operate an authentic identity. I am indigenous to Earth. I was born here. I'm an Earthling. I don't know what you people are out here doing when you call yourself people, but then you divide your people. Your people are more or less than this. We got some problems.
And it's so funny because you know, as I think you probably feel the same way. Like you get it because this is the way you grew up. You grew up on this planet, which is the way it is. But there's a part of me that is just like, what the hell does this all like? What?
How
Like
does it play out?
yeah, like countries, like there's different countries with governments, and then you know there's tons of rabbit holes where you go down where it's like about government conspiracies and how it's all set
Yeah.
up to be this way and whatever. But you know what? Again, instead of going there, you go inside and you say, I know how I want to exist on this earth. I know how I want to exist interacting with the other beings and souls that are around me, you know what I mean, and take accountability for that. That's all we can do, right?
Yeah, that
You know?
is very, very true. And this whole thing, the authentic identity that you hold universally for thyself, is not meant to ever be projected in the outer worlds as a template for others to follow or become, to
Right.
embody. The aspects of what's being portrayed, the fragments of it, the keys in a whole story, the keys went to you and some other keys went to somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Start ideals, put stuff together. It's the glue, is the key that opened a new door. It made me think like this now.
Right.
Those fragments are the beauty of energy sparking in the divine flame inside of you and giving you the curiosity to go look and go through, not sitting in fear, but the pure past and through that. And we were infinite beings. There's no fear here for anyone of us. That's all in your mind. And we built a world that projects fear consistently in languaging and then in the media showing you what the subject is that they can mediate. So here we have a relay of a relationship that's just unhealthy all the way around. You got kids now questioning, why are we sending money over to this country when we can't fix our own thing? And the kid's like less than 18 on Instagram. I'm like, damn, dude. You know, they've been saying this shit since before I was even born on this planet and before that and all this stuff. And so it is a great question that I wish inside that we would actually settle down and address.
So
Because
I feel like I feel like I need to enlist you somehow, and that you and I need to like just get everyone to understand this because
it's
it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like it just seems like, man, if everybody understood, like,
Earth. Earth. You know, the weird thing is, like, I've seen it from a cosmic level and then from a formless level where it just goes out so far that you're like, it's no thing. This, our whole existence is nothing more than another pinpoint in the myriad of pinpoints and nothing. And you're like, oh, that's the original spark in the darkness. There it is. And as soon as you give rise to that, you're involved with something. But what you're doing is we're getting lost in our potentials. So like saying, hey, let's hone this guy in. These subjects are all teaching you, no matter which direction I'm going, that appears to you, I'm coalescing something that's really complex, bring
Yes.
it into a foundational place that by the end of this, you'll swear, if we were continuing on with Christology and I'm telling you how I feel and stuff, you're going to start sensing and being that too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what we have, this is what this technology is letting us do right now, is we could touch through time and space in the way our senses say, you did it. But your higher sense and your actual existence here is doing it naturally. I'm sitting in your studio right now. I can just jump, I can feel my way right into the coolness of that space right now.
Right.
And stand there behind you and almost like, oh, and then we're gonna touch your beard on the right side. But we have, you talk to plenty of people that have these potentials to move around in time and space like this. So do you.
Yeah.
And you do it,
Absolutely.
but you just do it with your mind. You're forgetting about your heart, which is the major role in this whole play. And the performance that you're operating in is just the performance of a player on a stage, like they said. So what do you want to do with all this is the biggest question. And for me was, how do I find out not who I am, but where am I? Where am I? Because when I go to have perception or cast a question or ask anything here, if I don't understand what and who I am and where I am, my perception is skewed. The projection of energy or it goes in weird places and it comes back to side effects here, I call it.
Right.
Side effects on Earth.
Makes a lot of sense.
Technology, it's all side effects. Comes with cool stuff, a lot of side effects. And so that's why we're not able to come to a resonant coalition, because we don't believe as a society that we even have that potential. If we harmonize, we get scared. Some people out there are like, dude, that's socialism. If everyone had the same amount of currency called cash and everybody was, somebody goes, hey, I don't know about you with the math. And I was like, the kids are showing me a video. They're like, if you took $10 billion of Elon Musk's money right now, and he has 200 billion and he took 10 billion and he gave 1 billion to each one of the citizens of this place, everyone would be a billionaire. And he still have 190 billion. She goes, is my math correct? And I sit there eating breakfast and I'm like, it just makes you want to choke on your food, because you're like, there's one person that could actually solve the entire diagram. But what does that really mean when we do that? Are we ready to have the authority where we're in control of ourselves? Do you know who you are? Or have you been sold an ideal of who you are, and you're on a path that's designed?
I think you know what, and you know what, you're bringing up a good thought there. Is like, I believe most people aren't ready to handle it. You know what I mean? And again, that's the shift that's happening. You know, people are becoming ready, and people are like, oh, wait a second, I need to check myself. You know what I mean? Which is great, to see happening. But we do need more of that. I gotta say, like, I can't believe it's been an hour. We haven't even really talked about the LifeStream stuff and any of the other stuff. So I've
go to my website. You can see it there, and it's
okay.
The first introduction. The technology is really incredible because it changes your voltammetric signature of your body, your millivolts, to a healthy position, and gives you the vitality of oxygen and cellular voltage. Those are two key factors that change in the body's biology. But the main thing is, it's attuning you to the Schumann frequency of where you stand specifically in the earth. It's about the best thing you could ever ask for.
Man, oh man. All I know is I feel like I want to feel like you feel. Like I want to be wherever you're at. You know what I mean?
This is like, I have to slow everything down because it's not healthy for everybody around you if you operate like that. But in the end of this whole thing, what I've discovered is that I'm operating at multiple octaves at a time.
Yep.
And then that's an allowable factor that's here that humanity doesn't think is normal. And you look at an autistic child, and I actually got put in one of those schools for a minute because you're finishing all your stuff. You're not talking to anybody. Your emotions aren't off. You're in high school and you're not going to talk to anybody. Stick you in one of those things for a second. I looked at them like, dude, they got 1,000 computations per minute. They're so smart. They can't talk about what they're doing right now. They didn't even have a language for what they're up to.
Right.
Looking at them as problematic. I'm like, wait till they actually do talk. You're not going to know what's.
You know what's really interesting about you're bringing up autism, and it's really interesting because I think we refer to that, right, as someone being on the spectrum, right? And if you think about it, right, the spectrum represents a scale of things, right? And we can as human beings only see a certain, like, let's say the light spectrum, we only
With
see a certain part of it, but we know there's a part outside because we can measure that.
yeah,
That's what I feel like autism is. They're outside of our spectrum of,
very good.
sense, and they are actually more gifted. They have senses that we don't have and are accessing uh frequencies that we can't access,
And don't have the ability to express what that is, because even in the words that we're choosing to do right now, we'd have to talk really, really fast to express everything that's happening inside them and try to go like that and try
Right.
to go times faster. So in the reality of that, I'm not making an info commercial here and trying to sell you something.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
That's what's happening in those children, and they are connected to a lot of celestial operations. Whenever I'm with them and talk, I always get the sense that this is like high command orders come through these
Right.
kids. They're distillating something that's so beyond our measure and understanding that they
Yeah.
seem not from our world. And
Yeah.
I'm like, they are the world.
And I've met people who are autistic who actually, there's one particular guy who had this journal that was like Da Vinci's journal. It was like, explaining how black holes work and all of these things, and you're just amazed, like, this autistic person has all of this access to all of this knowledge. I see Jesse out there. What's up, Jesse from the Missing Link? Another amazing podcast. Good to see you here. Tim is hola, Missing Link. Great to see everybody talking to each other in the chat room. I missed a bunch of stuff, but I'm really happy to see everybody in the audience getting along. And Brian, again, this is, for me, this is so much freaking fun. I hope everybody was able to keep up. And I feel like,
Hey, what did we talk about?
we need some more time together. I would love to figure out a way to work with you and do something with what you're doing, and if I can help in any way, let's talk about that. Do you have, before I put you in the back room, I don't want you to leave, but I'm going to put you in the back room. I'm going to say goodbye, but I would love some parting words of wisdom for the viewers here today.
Absolutely. One of the contingency here of Earth is to better yourself so you can better the other things that are around you. Don't be so hard on, just talking to myself here, really, right? Don't be so hard on yourself about where those boundaries are. Just keep them close. Even the inner worlds, when you change your inner worlds, you will paradigmically see the reflection divinely cast all around you in such perfection. It's just amazing. Just slow down and see where you are, which is an eternal being standing in the garden. No ascension necessary except for ascension within, which allows all of us transpondently in the outer worlds to ascend together, but without talking about it, without making it this word called great work. Stop the work, which is arduous exchange of energy. You're not working, you're being, and you're becoming aware of where you are.
I love that.
Your authentic identity. It's nice.
I love that, Brian. Thank you so much for those words. Now, I know earlier we spoke and I told you about these Robert Plant vibes that I got from you originally. Are you?
Hold on just a second. Let me get my guitar and my surf.
Are you? That's what I was going to ask you. Are you a musician? Do you express yourself that way?
No, actually, it's more math. I do more math rhythms.
That I could tell.
I love skating. I love that, so I like doing one wheel and skating. It's fun for me. And used to go across and biking and stuff, but that's a little
cool.
too
I got it, because I got to say, whatever it is you're doing, the energy that you're putting out, it feels like that to me. It feels like music. It feels like I'm just listening to a song and just taking it in and going with it.
It's what's really interesting is someone came back in our lives that's an inanimate object, as others would call it, and yet for decades I've been in communication with this skull that's called Max the Crystal Skull.
Oh, we didn't even get to talk about Max.
Yeah, in an unbelievable sense, Max comes back into our life like from left field, we call it. Like, you're not even remotely thinking about this, and what's the chances? And no, there is no chance. There's just divinity, and you're operating in perfection. When divinity shows up at your door and you begin to question anything, stop immediately. Whatever's going on in your process, literally stop. The heart is the purity of the relationship, what was divinely stricken into order, and is the connection. If you start doing that, then what you're saying is an assemblage. I see the assemblage by which thy speaks, which is a crystallation and distillation of sacred geometry into form. And so in a way that has its own rhythms and takes. And when you talk to Max, you talk in riddle and rhymes because that's all there is.
I love it. I love it. So let's close it out with that. I'm going to bring Max up. So if people aren't familiar with it, we talked a little bit about it with Ellen. Max is the crystal skull, and I feel like let's do this. Let's what's the word I'm looking for? Stir up some interest and say there'll be another episode all about Max. Maybe I'll have both you and Ellen come on, and we can do a whole Max episode.
Please come to the site and touch base because I'm setting up classes for Crystology. And it's through empathy and compassion that we're actually going to engage this, not through the mind that we've been told about what these are. It's going to be about your sense perceptions, actually engaging your heart to the Crystology. Once you have that transpondent relationship, Crystology is going to change for you forever about what you're walking and are as a being.
I love it.
Please connect that way. It's great.
I love it. And Ellen is pushing you and saying that you can scan our body and energy field and create a special water formula. I'm imagining you might be contacted from one of the audience members or two.
Get a lot of those. It's really helpful. Actually, the elixir that was downplayed a little bit is an incredible opportunity to attune your bioelectric body without overthinking anything. It's a backup system, and it covers your butt. It's so good.
I love it. I love it. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for being here. I definitely, if you'll come back, we'll have you back. Maybe more than once, maybe more than twice, maybe as much as I can possibly get you, because I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much, man.
Much love. Thank you.
All right. Cool. I will talk to you later. I'm going to sign off. Oh, wow. Hold on. I think I might have to take a few deep breaths after that one. Are you guys feeling it too? Is anybody vibing right now, like vibrating? I think that was pretty amazing. Tim's saying obrigado. I love when he says that, obrigado. Thank you, Brian, for being here. And Ninja Kitty says thank you for being here. I'm so happy that my regulars are here and that you were here and that I was here to experience it. All I had to do was show up and it happened. That's great. Tim is saying a great episode. Thank you, brother. It means a lot. I'm glad you are here from day one. I don't think you've missed one episode. Maybe you missed one or two, but I forgive you. You probably watched the replay. It's really great. And Hat is out there also. Thanks, Michael and Brian. Thank you guys, man. Seriously, thank you. Ellen is saying a true savant. That was really amazing. I'm imagining if anybody was out there and this was confusing, you still felt the energy of it, because it's like knowledge, it's like energy, great energy, awesome show. That's exactly what I was saying, Joey. Thank you guys for being here. I love it. I love that you guys show up. I love that I get to do this. This is so exciting for me. I have a really, really interesting guest next week. His name is Joost van Dyke. He's like a psychic medium and a bunch of other things. I'll post a little teaser probably during the week with his website if you guys want to check him out before he comes. But if you like what you see, please comment, make comments, help me grow this show. I love doing this. I would love to be able to do this more and more and more. I often think about doing it another night a week. And I would love to do that for you, and your support would help. So thank you guys for being here. I will see you next week. I am going to sign off and say peace.